Hey guys, it's Henry of Mowers and Blowers. Welcome to part 2 of my 15.5 horsepower Craftsman 42 Hydro. As you know from yesterday's episode, starter's pretty jacked up. Doesn't work. Couldn't get the nut off there because it moves along with the second nut there. Turns freely. Couldn't get a wrench to fit in this one over here. So I'd figure I'd just take the whole damn thing apart. I did already order a new starter. I got a copy, third market kind. It was only $25 for a brand new starter. They do sell an entire assembly of these brushes over here for only $18. But why would you spend $18 for just this when you can get the whole thing for $7 more, right? Doesn't make any difference, and it doesn't make any sense. So as you can see, this is definitely not going to. It definitely didn't work because if you look at the wires and stuff, they're all busted. That's why it didn't work. I think if I ever put this back together again and resoldered the wires correctly and put the brushes back in, probably would work. But I think that's a lot of work to do that, you know. Not to mention the fact that I'm not really too experienced in... I mean, I've taken a generator apart before for a car and replaced the brushes before, but that was a lot easier than this. I guess I could figure it out. Maybe I'll try. Finally, it's coming off. Success. I had some people tell me that this button here is not stock. Whoever had this tractor before added this as a push button start, which makes 100% sense because that's why there's two solenoids. I'm thinking this might be the original one, and that one over there is an aftermarket one. I've never seen a solenoid that looks like that. As you can see, the way it's put on here, it has a stamped indentation here for the bolts, whereas these two don't. Okay, so I'm thinking these two were added for the bottom solenoid. I'm going to remove all that and add a new solenoid, try to figure out the wiring to it. Then when I get my new starter, I'll connect it. And I also ordered a cheap Chinese copied carburetor. It was only $12.87. That's cheap for a carburetor. It comes with the fuel solenoid. I don't think I want the fuel solenoid. I have another carburetor that looks just like this, but it's kind of dicked, you know. But it doesn't have a solenoid, so I might use that bowl nut for it, so I don't need to use the solenoid here. Those solenoids cause nothing but trouble. Well, that's less than ideal. My air compressor hose sprung a leak. Well, it's good use anyway. 10 years. Yeah, brand new. 15 bucks, Home Depot. Yeah. So here's the hood to the tractor. As you can see, it's got a pretty good crack at the stress point to the bracket that attaches onto it. The previous owner obviously did some jigging, and some of this, it looks like fiberglass tape or something like that. But I've had experience fixing these. Normally I would think about maybe putting crazy glue in between there, but because of the stress point, it's such a heavy stressed area that crazy glue just snap, you know. So you want to just kind of solidify this. I'm going to drill a hole here, hole there, hole here, hole there, hole here, hole there, and put 3 zip ties through it, and then seal it with some silicone right around it to prevent it from moving. That ought to do, as long as I'm careful. Like so. You know what? That's good. That's good enough. No silicone necessary. All done. So I was just looking at this starter assembly, you know, the innards and the outside cap, and I was kind of looking at it, and I kind of get it, you know. It's you see these brushes? They're pushed in, right, to these canals with the spring, right? And each of the brushes are attached to a wire. Wait a minute. That one... Uh-oh. This one should go somewhere. Well, anyway. I welded the wire onto the base so that it sticks to the brush. I'm going to have to see where this end goes. So I welded both those to the nut part. I think that's where it goes. That goes there. That goes there. That goes there. That goes there. And I just put the screw back in that area here. Put this assembly back into there, along with that. And this should be alright. Maybe. So I figured out what this button was. This is an aftermarket push button start that the guy put in here, which is the reason why we have probably 2 solenoids. This one being the original solenoid, bottom one being an aftermarket one. He's got it hooked up here where one wire goes to the battery. The other wire goes to the trigger of the old solenoid. So he pushes the button, charge goes in here, turns that, connects the starter and the power. So that's what it is. I'm going to disconnect that and wire it normally. But I don't have a starter, so I really can't test whether or not the solenoid works. If it doesn't work, it's okay. I've got 2 or 3 brand new solenoids in stock. So I'll do that when I get my starter. While I have it out, clean your shit. Just make it a wee bit better, you know what I mean? Yep, well, I was putting it all back together again, just all crumpled up on me. I'm not gonna give it any more effort because these starters are only 25 bucks. What am I messing with this crap for, right? The gear's still good in that. Guess I could sell that. This thing's gonna need a new battery too. I charged it yesterday and left it alone, and today after a couple hours it's back down to 9 volts. Doesn't hold a charge. Now that I got my air compressor all worked out, I'm gonna blow it out finally. Don't breathe that in, antivirus. So now I'm under the tractor, Checking out the condition and why it doesn't click out of the freewheel position. Because it's locked, you know. While I'm down here, I'm checking out other stuff. Looks alright. It's what the bottom of a lawn tractor sitting for 3 years or so would look like. Hydro gear, Sullivan. But I just noticed the brake kill switch is disengaged. You know, just because you pull the plug out doesn't mean that it'll stop the kill. You know what I mean? You got to bypass it, not just unplug it. So that's one of the reasons why it probably wasn't starting in the beginning. Checking out the crankshaft seal, there's no evidence of any oil at all. So I think this engine's pretty good. That is the assembly that I'm looking at, and I could only see it through this camera. Can't stick my head in there. When I pull that backwards and forwards, it doesn't make any difference. It's still locked, the wheels. Since this battery's Dunsky, might as well take it out and maybe I'll be able to get a better view of the lever, you know? Alright, so I just took the battery box out and the battery, and look at this. There's a transmission blower fan. You can see the gear engagement, and that is what we're looking for right there. That spring rod there. I just broke the tube off of the tranny fluid filler. So now I gotta find something to plug that hole. But before I plug it, I'm gonna fill it up with some Earl. I'm gonna go find out what kind of Earl this hydro trans takes. I decided that I am gonna put some silicone there just to make this stuff a little bit more solid, you know. I cut an old inner tube into this rubber thing, and just to help it have some kind of structure, I'm just going to place it over the silicone just so it helps it bond better and hold it together, almost like if you had rhubarb wiring through cement, you know. It's an inner skeleton, if you will, just to help hold it in place. I say it couldn't hurt, you know. What I failed to notice was that this other side is completely off its frame here. So this bracket that connects, huge stress point, it's not even connected. So I'm going to drill a couple holes here, remove the 2 bolts here because it's not really holding anything together, use these holes for my zip ties, and if I just since it's a corner, better structure, so I'll get 2 bigger zip ties, or 3 maybe, no, 2, and do that. Oh, it looks like hell, but it's functional. Next, I'm going to remove all the wiring from those 2 old solenoids. I don't know if they work or not. I'm just going to put a new one in and try to reconnect the wires properly. So I disconnected all the wires. These there are the, this is the original solenoid, is what I'm assuming, because it looks so old. You know, this might still work. I'm going to hook it up to a battery and test it. Same goes for this one. This one actually looks okay. Your typical universal 4-post solenoid. Now, of course, it's a hassle and a mystery to figure out exactly what's what, you know what I mean? Not to mention the fact that who knows if that ignition switch even works, you know? Gonna whip out the old multimeter and do some testing. I hate electrical. Totally hate electrical. I'm not gonna use the push button because the push button's already busted, so I'm going to cut these 2 wires off completely. Even better, just yank the whole damn assembly off, you know. Okay, now that I got that 2 switches out, and plus, the 2 solenoids out, and that push button switch, it's all pretty clear now to me. So this wire here is coming from the back, which is where the battery is. So this one will go on one of the top posts of the solenoid. This one over here goes to the starter, so that'll go on the other main post, right? You got a black wire here that goes to the ground, and this one over here is going to be the trigger wire, and that'll go on the other 4. So it's I've got a 4-post solenoid. These 2 will go on the 2 spades, right? This one will go on one side, this one will go on the other. I'll put a new battery in, and then I'll, on the other end where the starter is supposed to be, I'll hook up some kind of 12-volt light or something like that, and we'll see if it lights up and works when I turn the ignition switch. If it doesn't work, then I know the ignition switch is busted. Well, actually, so what better way to test the other 4-post solenoid than to just hook it up and see if it works real quick, you know? So this solenoid, being it's a 4-post solenoid, the 4th one being the ground, right? This one does not have to be grounded to the frame. This should work as it is. So I've got the black one on the spade, the white one, the trigger wire, being on the right side. It doesn't really matter which one. You got the main battery lead going to that one, and that one going to the starter. So I'm just gonna, I need to hook up a battery to this, right? And then something 12 volts onto this end so I'll know it works. I've got a new test light from Harbor Freight. I'm just testing to see if this works, and it does. I got this new battery for my LTV10, but it's hibernating for the winter now, so I guess I'll use it for this one since I need a battery. I'll probably go to Walmart and get another one of these $21.97 batteries. They're awesome. It's very important that your contacts between the battery cable and the terminals are very clean and free from any corrosion. That'll give you a good electrical contact. So, clean your shit. Put the battery box back, put the battery in, clean the terminals, have it all tightened down. Ew, that's interesting. So I just hooked up the battery. So here is this is the wire coming from the battery. I'm going to just make sure and see if all the connections are right. Okay, so we've got power coming from this line. Let's see if we have power that goes to the starter when we push the trigger or the ignition. Nothing. Nothing. So let's see if we have power going to the trigger. There's no power going to the white trigger wire when I turn it. So, I'm going to have to see if that white wire connected to the switch is going to have power. So we know I have power going to the ignition switch over there, but check out the condition of that switch. I'm going to brush it off a little bit. So the trigger wire still doesn't work. There's no electrical current going to the solenoid to make it pop up to connect to the left red wire. I think I have some kind of a switch that's been disconnected. Oh, you know what? There was that brake one that was disconnected. I'm going to connect it again. You see that? It's disconnected. Just pop that in. Well, trigger wire still doesn't work. But I'll tell you what. If I jumped it like that, it works. See? So at least I can test it when I get my starter, right? When I get my starter, put it on, and I can just jump it like that. For the ignition doesn't work, see? I can just jump it, and we could start the engine that way. So I have a feeling that either one of the kill switches is kablooey, because I know that the rear seat one is just not there. It's disconnected, so I got to jump that somehow. Otherwise, it's not going to work the right way. The only other way to know for sure is to hardwire everything. You know what I'm saying? Just find an on and off switch and connect it to this. You know what I'm saying? As if I'm jumping it. You know, that's the only way. It's a pain. Because I'd have to take that whole thing apart and find a regular switch, or I could buy a new switch, but I'm just not sure about the kill switches, you know. I think we got that one for the brake. You know, it's the seat one that's messed up. Here's the seat switch. It's completely disconnected, right? The two prongs, the two wires. So theoretically, if we just connect these two, right, that'll bypass the seat switch. And that ought to do it. But you know what? There's also a PTO kill switch too. Don't you guys hate kill switches? Nope. Still doesn't work. Check this out though. I'm putting a power source to the trigger terminal. So the solenoid works. Alright, that was a good test. Alright, so we know that solenoid works. Ignition switch probably doesn't work, but when I get a starter, we'll hook it up, right? And at least we can start the engine by jumping that solenoid. And in the meantime, I'll see what I can do about a switch, and still waiting for a carburetor. But yeah, you know, making progress on this. What I found out was actually an LT1000. Even though it doesn't say it, it's actually the LT1000 hydro version, you know. There's a 6-speed version too. I actually watched a video of a guy had the hydro version and a 6-speed version, and the 6-speed, the hydro version had a rusted out deck and all that stuff, and so he loved the hydro better. I personally hate the hydros. I think they're unreliable, and they whine, and you got to worry about the tranny fluid and everything. I found out that the tranny fluid, you need to put 20W50 in there. So, I mean, I don't even know if I really need it. You know, I stuck a screwdriver into the tranny reservoir to see, and there was like probably 5 inches of fluid. So I think it has plenty of fluid, but I read somewhere where if it's not exactly to a line specified by the manufacturer, it'll whine. But we don't even know if the damn thing, the tranny, works, you know what I'm saying? Because I haven't started this engine yet, you know? So we'll wait for the carburetor, we'll wait for the starter, and then I guess we could probably try to start this engine. But like I said, if you guys have been watching my videos in part 1, got this for 20 bucks. I'm in it for, so far, $25 for a new starter, which isn't bad really, it's cheap. And only $13 for a Chinese copied carb. The battery I bought, you know, for another tractor anyway, but I guess you can count it as, you know, $22. So 22, 20 for the tractor, that's 45. 45 plus 15, let's just call it 15 for the carburetor. That's 60. 60 plus $25, $85. So far, without even knowing if this damn thing works and runs, I'm in it for $85. I should have just spent $85 on a running tractor. You know what I mean? That's probably what I'll try to do from now on, because, you know, you could spend a little bit more for a tractor that's working already, right? Other than ending up spending $85 for a tractor that you don't even know if it works, you know? But, look, I could always, even though I buy these parts, and if it doesn't work, you know, I still have the parts, you know? But I'm pretty confident I'll be able to get this engine running, because there's no signs of it not wanting to run, you know? I know I'm going to have a spark problem, because while I said that there was a mouse nest and that the wires looked okay, if you look really closely, it has been chewed on, and you could see that the wire is exposed. You know what? I'm gonna change that out to another magneto when we find out it doesn't work. Because if it does work, at least we'll know. You know, I have about 3 or 4 other Briggs and Stratton magnetos, but I'm not sure if they work. You know, so we'll just keep this on here until I get my parts started up. And if we have no spark, we'll change it. Anyway, so that's making progress in part 2 of my Craftsman 1996 LT1000 42-inch hydro. Thanks for watching the progress, and see you guys next time on Mowers Blowers for part 3.
Support my channel, buy a sticker.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Follow me on Instagram at Mowers.